Hey everyone, it's Braulio Rosa with the Broward Bar Buzz, and today I have longtime friend and ally, Sheri Fiske Schultz, who is the managing partner, owner, one of the, not founder, but she'll get into it, of Fiske. Welcome, Sheri.
Thank you, Braulio, and thank you for having me here today.
So I had mentioned that you're not the founder, but tell us just a little history of Fiske, because you've been around a long time.
Yes, we have. So Fiske was started by my father in 1972. And when I graduated from college, I started working at Coopers & Lybrand, which is now PwC. And after about 5 years, my father said, I did not get you to become a CPA to go work for somebody else. I just started a forensic valuation practice, would love for you to come over and assist and help me build the practice. Well, 6 months later, I decided, okay, it's time, and went with him and helped grow the valuation forensic practice. And now we were a full service accounting firm, and now we're a boutique valuation forensic firm and a little bit of taxes.
Very focused in your business is it just lawyers? I mean, that's why we're here today, to talk about how you help lawyers, but do you branch out into other stuff also?
Yes, some clients can call us that they want to buy or sell their business and they want to know the value of it, so they don't need an attorney for that. It's only we get involved with the attorneys on the litigation matters, which could include valuations, and many times it does.
So elaborate on valuation, since you already talked about that, and how you can help lawyers in the court, or hopefully not even have to go to court over it.
Sure. Well, I'll give you an example of a case that I just testified in last week, where the owner did not really do a proper due diligence to see how much the business was worth, signed a contract, an agreement to purchase the business for, let's say it was $10 million. Lo and behold, he gets into the business and realizes, oh, wait, the revenues aren't what they say they are. The expenses are much greater than that's being reported. And so they bring us in to do an evaluation of how much the value should have been at the time of purchase. And that case, we just went to court, as I said last week. We got another case yesterday. This is from a physician, a same type of thing where they didn't do their due diligence or proper due diligence. They thought they did, which is a concern because they thought they hired a CPA to do that. CPAs are wonderful. I love CPAs. I am a CPA, but all CPAs do not do due diligence. So you need to make sure when you hire one, what you're hiring them to do. And so this is one of the reasons that we do valuations for litigation purposes. We do valuations to, when I said other than buy, sell, estate and gift is huge. And there we don't, the counsel retains us, but this isn't for litigation matters. This is because they're gifting an interest in their closely held business, and they need us to come value it and how much it's worth. Another example, and one that I was just on the phone with the client today, a minority shareholder got pushed out of the business. Shocking. You don't think it happens often, but it happens a lot. And they want to give him relatively nothing for his interest. And so we have to come in and value all the entities that he has an interest in to see how much they should pay him for him to be, unfortunately, pushed out of this business.
That prior, we got to rewind a few back, because you riddle off a few there. You were talking about how you went in and looked at the value, and it was like, say it was $10 million. He had not done his due diligence, and he purchased his business. Can you get into how much it really was worth? I mean, how much did they take him for on this?
It was worth about 30% less. It wasn't that bad, but I've seen some that it's at least over 50% less, because we do a lot of this.
Wow.
And the financials were wrong, and the seller has more problems than just this lawsuit, because he, under penalties of perjury, signed that these financial statements are accurate and reflect the financial position of the business, which it did not, because he did not include a lot of cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold decreases the income, which will decrease the value. So if you're not reporting your income and your expenses correctly, the underlying income isn't going to be what it should be.
So that's what you do. You kind of go in and dig in and look at what's the real cost, and you actually find areas where maybe they're not showing, but with your experience, you know that these categories should be included in the expenses, or
Absolutely. So we have data sources where we can look at what is the industry's gross profit, what's the industry's net profit, how much should they be making in this business, especially what are their cost of goods sold, what's that percentage. So if the numbers are completely different from what the industry is, we dig in and we go through their general ledger and go through detailed analysis of the various revenue and expense accounts to see what are the true numbers in this business.
wow. I would think that probably happens more often than not.
Yes.
But there's a lot of people out there selling businesses and they're not really as valuable as they portray them to be.
Yes, and a lot of times the business owner or the buyer looks at the broker package that's put together. Well, the broker puts the package together for the seller to try to get as much money as possible.
Right, they're getting a cut of that.
Absolutely. So you really need to analyze, and you should be hiring a third party such as Fiske to do your valuation. Nice plug there, right?
Yeah,
and so
good.
you need somebody to go in and do an independent analysis and perform a valuation to make sure that the broker isn't blowing smoke up.
Into your ear or wherever.
Exactly. I didn't know how to end that one.
What is the difference between forensic accounting, and I know you do that, versus the valuation business?
So there's a lot of similarities because when we do our valuation, we do a lot of forensic analysis. In fact, we had a valuation yesterday that I was on the phone with the clients, and I told them based on what they explained to me that their financials don't make sense and that we need to dig into the financials because, so we have to do forensic analysis. Normally when we do evaluation, a lot of times we can just take the financials of 5 years of historical, take projections, determine the valuation. So here we're doing forensic analysis. We're digging into the numbers, and that's forensic accounting, which is used for litigation purposes and for business valuation purposes.
How often do you find yourself in the courthouse?
Unfortunately, way too much. I had 2 trials back to back last week, one in West Palm and the other federal in Miami. And it's a lot, especially since I had a depo the day before in a 3rd case. So it's a lot of information going through my brain of how, keeping the cases separate and what will I be testifying about and what are all the issues and problems. But I love testifying so much. That's, to me, that's the culmination of all my hard work. Finally, I get to showcase all that I've learned and explain to the trier of fact why the number that I came up with, I'm an advocate for my opinion, not for the client or the attorney, but why is my number the correct number? And
you're considered an expert in the courtroom now, right? In this area.
Absolutely, I am. I get appointed by judges a lot to be a neutral. Attorneys retain me as a neutral, which is a good thing because then you're not spending a fortune hiring a plaintiff, an expert for the plaintiff, an expert for the defendant. Because frankly, if we all have the same financial information, we should come up with the same result.
You should.
We should, but unfortunately, we rarely do, which is why we are in trial a lot.
Can you explain how that happens if you have 2 experts like you and it's numbers? Is it that you could do whatever you want with numbers? You know, I've heard that. I could come up with whatever stats I want when I have a set of numbers. You would think math is math is math.
Math is math is math. But a lot of the issues are around projections versus using historical. And when you use projections, if they are not produced outside of litigation, if they're produced for litigation, how much can you rely upon them? It needs to really be done in the ordinary course of business. And then a lot of times people are very aggressive with their projections. And so the expert needs to analyze them to determine how reliable, how much can they place reliance on these projections. Okay. So we see a lot where our projections are very different than opposing parties' experts' projections. And if we're basing it on historical, in fact, in one of the cases for a couple weeks ago, they had historical, we had historical information, and we had the projections for at least 2021, and we were able to show how they were off by 40% in just 2021, the year that we have actual versus projections. Because when you do a valuation, you're not supposed to look past, you're supposed to put blinders on, not supposed to look past the valuation date. So we're saying, if you can't rely on the projections for what you gave us versus the historical, how can we rely on the future? Plus, you're starting at an inaccurate number and you keep growing and growing. So that's one of the ways that valuation experts are different. Also, our discount rates. A lot of times, experts can be very aggressive with how they compute their discount rates.
Okay. What areas do you often find yourself? I mean, obviously, there's business litigation and business divorces and that sort of thing, but what other areas do you find yourself being hired to do?
For fraud, when an individual is stealing from a company, we find ourselves involved in a lot of breach of contract where the one party, obviously the defendant, didn't do what they were supposed to do, and the plaintiff is suing for the damages. Lost wages. A case, thank goodness it got settled. It was a silly case in my mind. A sign fell on an individual, didn't really hurt them, but it did fall on them. And so they claimed millions and millions of dollars of damages, which they could not prove. And that's why they ended up settling for almost nothing. Thanks to us. Which is why attorneys like to use us, because we can really dig down into the numbers and explain what the damages are. I remember we do a lot of work for Allstate, and they just want to settle the case and just give the number. We're like, no, why are you giving them $1 million when they can't even show that they made $100,000 of income? Why would you give it to them? They just want the case to go away, and we can prove that, no, it's not worth anything. Don't give them anything. And they may give them a few dollars for it to go away, but we come in and really give them support of why there is no value to this case.
So you'll do work with, I guess, workers' comp or after the fact or personal injury, where you're figuring out this is what they would have made had they worked for the next 25 years?
Correct, and what benefits they should have had. And so we do a lot of that. What's great is we work for the insurance companies, and we also work for the attorneys that are suing the insurance companies, so we know it from both ends. And this is a question I get asked every single deposition. What percentage of your cases are for plaintiffs and what percentage are for defendants? And I happily can say year after year, it's 50-50.
No, okay.
So and it helps because you see it from both angles.
Respected and, just respected by both sides.
I agree. Yes, I am.
So why would an attorney want to hire you, and how would they go about doing that?
So a lot of attorneys say they went to law school because they don't understand the finances. They don't understand the financial position of the company. And I think I would be really rich today if I was able to get $1 for every time an attorney said that to me. However, there are a lot of attorneys that do have a wonderful financial background, which helps. But they need us because we understand the financial information. We understand the details behind it. It's so, if you don't work with financials and tax returns on a regular basis, you're not going to understand. Something so basic as net income per books has to equal the net income per books on the tax return. But attorneys don't always look at that. And if there's a difference, we need to then dig in to see why, which is very common. And there's also the way that they report their financial information. They could present it in such a way that hides a lot of the details that you would not as an attorney understand because you will gleam over it. We know how to dig into those general ledgers and find exactly what we need and what the actual true revenue and the true expenses are. So that's very helpful for attorneys, for us to be able to do that. We can do analysis of ratio analysis, common size, where that's I don't want to get into that. So we can do ratio analysis and common size analysis to look for anomalies, to look for irregularities, to see what stands out, whereas an attorney wouldn't be able to dig into that level to determine the true financial picture.
Is there a specific red flag or a moment where attorneys should be aware, okay, I need to hire a Sheri?
Well, anytime you have a case that has financial information, you should be hiring an expert. Because even if you think you understand the case, there's always things that you may miss because we do this on a regular basis.
Right.
And we could assist moving the case along or settling the case. I had a case with some attorneys, and the client and the attorneys assumed the damages, I'm going to make up a number, $10 million. After we got in it, there was hardly any damages because they weren't reading the financial information correctly. And there was no way I could go to court and support anywhere near what they thought the damages were going to be.
And they had hired you.
And they hired us, and we were able to mediate and settle based on realistic numbers, and at least they got something out of it instead of nothing, because that's what they would have done if they went to court without an expert.
Yeah, they would have gone in and wasted a lot of money on an attorney that would have charged his or her fees, and they'd have got nothing, and they would have paid out.
Absolutely. That's why I think it's so beneficial. I'm not being biased here, but we really can, maybe a little bit, but we can add to your case by analyzing, reviewing, understanding, and providing you with what's really going on, explaining it to you. And I love being able to get in early. Like, attorneys want to wait till the last minute. It's not always attorney's fault. It's the client. Their clients, we don't need to pay the money now. Let's just wait. Let's wait until the last possible moment. And they do that, and then they retain us or try to retain us, and there's no way we have enough time to do adequate discovery to make sure that we have all the information we need. So the earlier you retain an expert, the better, because we can help assist you with the discovery requests of what you really need to get in order to determine the damages. In one case, they brought us in too late, and they didn't get crucial information to support what the income, what the salary. This was a lost wages case. And because we didn't have it, we had to end up helping them settle it because they couldn't support the number. So bring an expert in early. Let us help you with the discovery request. Let us help you write the deposition questions for the opposing expert and also for the client, or the opposing, the defendant or the plaintiff, whoever the opposing party is, because they can provide us with significant information that will help us with our analysis. So I like being involved, and we give a whole package. I was on there with an attorney today where he asked us, he said the 3 depositions are Monday and Tuesday, and they need us to now provide all the questions and the support so he can look at it while he's asking the question and show it to the person being deposed. And so what are we doing from now and Monday is working around the clock to get these depo questions. So it helps to do it a little bit earlier, but I also like writing my own direct. I shouldn't say I love it every single time, because in the last couple cases, they did it for me and it was fabulous that I didn't have to spend the time, but I like telling my own story. And so I really stay very involved with my direct. Either I write the whole direct or I assist them with it. And I like writing the cross questions for the opposing expert.
Great information. If someone wants to get a hold of you, how do they do that?
They call us at Fiske, or they can email me at Sheri@fisco.com. And my name is spelled Sheri, since no one likes to spell it that way.
And your website?
Is fisco.com.
Wonderful. Sheri, thank you for stopping by. I really enjoyed you educating us.
It was such a pleasure being here. Thank you for having me.